I think we should talk more about the game that you guys seemed excited to talk about earlier before I asked for
Total
some background,
Distortion.
which is Total
Yeah.
Distortion. Yeah, tell us about this.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead, John Henry. You're the one that was a point on it. That I was just a player.
Okay. Well, that was at least the second game for the principal, Joe Sparks. He'd worked on Spaceship Warlock, and in Total Distortion, Joe Sparks followed his musical passion, and it was just chock full of original, music. And the theme of the game was very interesting too. It was you were somehow transported to this other universe where you had to the way you fueled your energy supply was by making music videos and sending them back to the subconscious of people, and that's how. But the main part of that was the big arc of the game. But there was I don't know, dozens of these little mini games. It was visual. It was a fun kind of buffet of games, and unusual games and good music. So. And I think Joe joined Macromedia and did some Shockwave stuff, some web-based stuff.
The Total Distortion thing was if you had somebody who was a non-gamer who was coming from the music business, and you told them to make something that was a game, but about their music business, and that person was very creative, that's what you would get. The idea that somebody would think of that it was non-sequential. It wasn't that you do one thing and then that leads you to something else. Everything was kind of in its own standalone little environment, but it was really very, very creative.
One thing I'm really curious about is to what degree, while you were working on Director and it started being picked up and used for lots of games and lots of software, what kind of awareness did you have at the time that like, oh, this is a pretty big deal, versus recognizing some of that in hindsight? What did it feel like to be working on it in the 90s and seeing it pick up so much?
It didn't seem, it was an exciting time. It was an interesting time. I didn't feel like I was part of we were always a niche. It seemed like we were the bigger people, the bigger guys were, there was a PC world was bigger, there was, we were doing all the simple little, game thing. And, there were much bigger companies, Microsoft, Apple with ScriptX, there was a lot of big players dealing with not just games, but interactivity in general. I mean, in retrospect now is what I see I see there was a big cultural expression that we're losing now, that we don't have access to unless, folks work really hard, like Larry's working on, to resurrect it for the new hardware. We don't have there's no financial incentive or motivation by the company that owns this intellectual property to just make it easier, just open source it or open source a little bit of enough. So it's a digital loss that I feel now. We can talk about Total Distortion, but we can't play it anywhere. It's just. And then, it was an interesting time to see the new forms of things without any barriers, or very minimal barriers. They had a time and they had a computer, they were good to go.